Welcome back to the channel. Today we are reacting to a Whitney Houston video. But before we get started, I want you to consider checking out my second YouTube channel. The link will be in the description box below. Help me get this video to 1,000 likes. And as always, don't forget to like, share, watch more videos, and subscribe to the channel.
Entertaining, I do. But I love music. I love to hear the voice, the human instrument. The elements that make up a great pop song for me was the melody and the lyric content. Whether it be about love strong or love weak, love in between, it talks about the ups and downs and experiences of love, basically. Love gone bad, love gone good, love indifferent. It's just, it's got a melody and a song, a story to tell.
Let's talk about the early days of MTV. What are your earliest memories of MTV? Do you remember when you first?
Let me know in the comments, is it important to you for a song to have some type of story to it?
Saw it, what you thought?
Yeah, I remember that I couldn't get on. I remember that it was a major breakthrough for African American entertainers to be on MTV because it was solely for rock artists. I remember Michael Jackson making a very big breakthrough, and then Tina Turner, along with myself and Bobby Brown and a few others that were major breakthrough artists on MTV. But I do remember the hassle of introducing black artists to MTV because, let's face it, was solely for white artists at that point.
It was primarily a rock station.
Well, yeah.
And then,
Jimi Hendrix is dead.
Tell me in the comments, did you like the diversity that came towards MTV, or did you prefer it the original way?
Black rock and roll artists. Right.
Hey, you mentioned Michael. I think he's really credited with really breaking down the color barrier.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's important, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've always had this thing about, why does it always have to be a breaking ground for people who are just totally gifted and talented? I would think that because of the talent and the humongous talents that African Americans and other artists, who are Caucasian Americans have, why should there be a breakthrough on MTV? I didn't get it. But again, you have to be outstanding to break down the walls. And Michael and a few others are outstanding. So, it was cool. It's very cool.
Were you watching the channel back then, or were you so busy with your early work in your career that did you get to see it much?
Sure. MTV was a must-watch. It was a must-watch because we were watching the growth and the progress of what this music television station was going to do, and everyone knew it was going to be huge and large and in charge. So what we had to do was watch the format to see if we could fit in or see if we could break it. So we did both, basically.
Let's talk about some other early MTV artists.
Yeah.
You recently worked with George Michael.
Yeah.
On the duet.
Yeah.
Do you remember his videos from his days in Wham?
Oh, yeah. Wake me up before you go. Sure, I do.
Were you a fan of his music then?
I was, yes. I thought, he was very cute and adorable and very poppy, very catchy, The George Michael, 5 or 6, 7 years from that point, from Wham, was totally different. He grew up and became this phenomenon, who talked about things that people really didn't want to talk about.
What did you think of his solo work? What did you think of him breaking away from, it was kind of risky, I would assume, but what did you think of his solo work?
Anytime you break away from a group, it is risky, unless you are the group. And let's face it, George Michael was the group. So,
Tell me in the comments, when it comes to group musicians, tell me the ones in the comments you think did better as a solo or did better in groups.
him breaking away and doing a solo thing was, not a surprise, but, definitely a phenomenon because he took off like, whew, just skyrocketed.
His first big solo success was with a video and song called "I Want Your Sex,"
Mm-hmm.
and despite its pro-monogamy message, it caused this huge uproar because it debuted on MTV just as the AIDS crisis was
Right.
making headlines around
Right.
the world. But do you remember that period? What do you remember about that? And how people reacted to his video and his song?
Well, I think we have to remember that it was the first kind of big impact of AIDS. It was like, wow, what is this thing, what are we dealing with here, this HIV virus thing, and I'm sure George Michael didn't have an in on whether AIDS was going to be large, and in fact, it was. I don't think that he did a song, to oppose it or, be in opposition of it. I think his song came out and then there was this AIDS thing, you know what I mean? I don't think that, he condoned it or anything. I just think basically it was just by coincidence that happened. But who could stop AIDS, from doing what it did?
So this was the late 80s, and around that time, or actually a couple years later, there were a few very, very successful producer-driven dance pop acts.
Yeah.
Like CNC Music Factory, Technotronic.
Sure.
And they were often fronted by these sort of skinny little model types who weren't actually even singing.
Yeah.
As a true vocalist, what did you think about that when all that
Shame, shame, shame. Shame on you. Yeah, because, I know, for instance, CNC Music Factory, Martha Wash was the singer on that record. And when we saw the video, we saw a very, cute little dark-skinned child singing the song, which we knew it wasn't her. I certainly knew it wasn't her because I know Martha Wash from years ago, and the woman can sing, and you can't mistake that voice. So to me, it was like, well, wow, you made a hit song off of this woman's voice. How come we can't see her? What's the big deal? Because she's a heavy-set woman with a beautiful face and this gigantic, fabulous, tremendous, rock-kicking-ass voice. What's the problem? Is it the image situation? Well, today I know that there are beautiful, big women who can sing, and we love them. Why are we afraid to hear the truth?
Right around the same time that all this happened was the whole sort of Milli Vanilli scandal. How much do you think all those stories and all that, hurt pop's credibility, if at all?
Well, let's go back now. Let's go back to the days of West Side Story when we saw Natalie Wood singing and we knew it wasn't her singing. I mean, come on. It's called a business. And if you can make it by getting over, you will. People will do it. If you can make a song and claim that, you sang it and you didn't sing it and nobody knows the difference unless they're in the studio with you, what does it really matter until you get busted?
I feel bad for those guys.
And they got busted. Point blank. Busted.
Over the next few years, MTV really started to turn its attention more towards certain kinds of rock music and hip-hop.
Right.
And the only real pop artists getting MTV play were the real vocalists like yourself, Boyz II Men, Mariah. Do you think that was a reaction at all to sort of the phoniness of that period right beforehand? Or do you think tastes just changed? Or
I just think people weren't going to put up with that. Period. We were not going to put up with fake singing and taking credit for something that, wasn't there. We just weren't going to. Americans were just not going to put up with that, and that was the bottom line. It didn't have anything to do with me or Michael or the vocalists or people who could really sing. It was just that we weren't going for that. That's out. That's out. This is called music. It's called singing. It's called entertainment. Then let's do that.
This was right around the same time as The Bodyguard and I Will Always Love You, which are amongst the biggest albums and singles of all time.
Yeah.
And to this day, still, and probably forever. Why do you think that music touched people in such a strong way?
Again, it's I'll Always Love You tells a story. You can't beat lyrics like bittersweet memories, that's all I'm taking with me. So goodbye, please don't cry. We both know I'm not what you need, and I'll always love you. You can't beat lyrics like that, and you can't beat a melody as beautiful as I'll Always Love You, really, or The Greatest Love of All. Songs like that, they are stories that people can identify with. You know what I mean? Anybody. Children were singing this song at graduations, at weddings, at funerals. It was just an overall emotional feeling that you could deal with on all levels.
Tell me the events that you know for sure people use that song at.
Some a little bit more about some of your own work. What do you remember about your own first music videos on MTV?
Ooh.
Do you remember the first time you saw one of your own clips on the channel?
Yeah. I remember trying very hard to get "You Give Good Love" on MTV, and they weren't accepting it because it was very, very R&B kind of song. And then I remember coming up with "Saving All My Love for You," and it hit so hard and exploded so heavy that they had no choice but to play it. I love it when they have no choice. I love it. I love it.
I was in high school then, so don't blame me.
Okay.
I would play it.
Okay.
How important do you think MTV, once, Saving All My Love for You, and then How I Know, which was just huge on
Yeah.
the channel.
Yeah.
How important do you think that was into, taking your career, to another level?
We're talking about, we're talking about around the era of Madonna and the Prince, Michael Jackson, Bobby Brown, and the whole, the image was starting to become very imagey. It was the look, it was the hair, it was the makeup, it was the way you moved, the way you danced, the way your mouth sang a song, you know what I mean, the way your head moved, all those little gestures and things became very important for video purposes. You know what I mean? The radio, like they said, the video killed the radio star. Well, it kind of happened, you know what I mean? It really we had to be visual.
Let me be honest with you about something. I love the way she keep plugging her husband. You know, she had mentioned Bobby Brown. True enough, she won't mention him above Michael Jackson or Prince because let's be honest, Bobby Brown is good, but he is not on their level. But I love the fact that her love is allowing her to say, "Hey, I gotta mention my husband in this."
And MTV made us be visual, so we had to pull it off, really.
Looking back on all your videos, do you have any favorites or any you're totally embarrassed about or anything like that? That you wish you hadn't done it that way? Or
There's just one video, and I love it, but my daughter looks at it and she goes, "Mom, that's you?" And it's how I know. I looked the craziest. I had on all kinds of hair colors mixed in with other hair. It was just wild. It was very Euro because I did it in England. And I remember coming off of tour and I was so exhausted. I was so tired that I just remember just saying, "Okay, just do what you want to do with me and I'll just do it." And when I came to, I had all this stuff on, this makeup, this wild makeup, and this silver outfit, that was itching me to death because I kept going like this through the whole video. You don't know what I went through that day. And this hair, and that became, it was just crazy. It was just How I Know. I didn't even get the concept. It was just through the video. That was very embarrassing at some points.
you mentioned your daughter watching some of your clips.
Yeah.
Does she ever watch MTV? Do you let her watch MTV?
No, I don't. Unfortunately, you guys play very explicit videos, which are very influential on little girls. And I happen to have lingerie in my room, and my daughter loves to go in and put on my shoes and my dresses. I want her to stay out of the lingerie. So I don't want her to think it's cool at the age of 8 to have to be sexy. Either you are or you aren't. There's no putting it on. And I want her to naturally be aware of her own sexiness, and not that it takes having to, open your legs or, give us tits and ass and all that stuff to be accepted. I want her to use more than that. So I kind of refrain her from the MTV crowd until she's old enough to handle it.
Well, let's be honest, this video was a very special video. It allowed us to see just a little bit deeper into the thoughts of Whitney Houston. Tell me your thoughts about this video in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, watch more videos, and subscribe to the channel.